everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Church Express. Kirk Ray Smith in the building. As always, privileged and blessed to be before everybody this morning. I hope you guys are getting a good start, or actually a good start, a good finish to your weekend. Today's Sunday, so this is kind of like that last day before everybody heads back to the office. So like always, we'll give folks a few moments here to join us for this week's Church Express. So coming to you live from good old Central Florida, West Central Florida, that is, the Tampa region. So at any rate, I also want to share with you guys, again, the importance of, following us there on YouTube. YouTube Live is no longer an option. You have to have at least 1,000 subscribers to live stream. So we're going to try to record and then upload the videos that way. It won't be live for now until we can reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Pretty far away from that, but we'll keep trying to get to that number, as we go. But I also want to encourage everyone again to visit our website at ksunlimited.com, and of course on Facebook, my personal page, Kirk Ray Smith Senior, and then Kirk Smith Unlimited right here on Facebook. So we'll just kind of keep it going. But again, I think once we can get our subscribership up, we shouldn't have any problems making it to going back to live streaming there on YouTube. And so, this morning, what I thought I would do, I would really get into the topic of marriage. And marriage is always a very sensitive topic, believe it or not. And a lot of it is really comes down to, how we see marriage has a lot to do with how we come up, what we were raised around, our environments, what we witnessed as kids. Obviously, everyone's experience is not the same when it comes to marriage. I know for me personally, that was not a huge topic in my household as a kid. We didn't talk a lot about marriage, and really, our definition of family was what we had, So all of us, for the most part, we were without a father, although I did have a stepfather for a brief period during my childhood, if you want to call him that. But we did have, for the most part, it was just us. It was basically kids raising kids, and my mom working a couple jobs just to keep the lights on and keep food in our bellies, and keep us as safe as she possibly could. And she worked really hard, and I think she did a really good job of that coming up. But again, when you talk about marriage, there was not many examples for me. I have one of my older sisters that was married briefly, I recall, during my childhood, and that was the closest thing I saw to a marriage. So at any rate, for us, it just came down to just having just dreams, and whatever we saw on TV, and that was sort of in a magazine. That's what we thought marriage was. But I want to talk about messed up marriages. I want to talk about what happened, and would you agree that there are times when people get married either prematurely or just shouldn't have never been married in the first place? Marry the wrong person. That happens. Would you agree that you marry? Sometimes people marry the wrong people. So no matter how pure our intentions were, that person's intentions were at the time, that couple, we make mistakes. You marry the wrong person. It happens. Again, good intentions. Your desires are all correct and great idea. But the reality is we marry the wrong people. And unfortunately, when that happens, it takes us a while to notice that. Sometimes, you can get married and probably a year into it, you realize, wait a minute, I should have never married this person. It happens. Now, that being said, I can tell you in my own marriage, when Vanessa and I, we first got married, You know, it started out pretty good, but, you know, about a year or so into it, you know, we had questions ourselves on should we even got married in the first place. Again, so that type of thing happens, but the reality is we do marry the wrong people. I mean, it just happens. If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have so many divorces and you would have so many short marriages. So you have to accept that reality. So if that's you, if you fall in that category, accept that reality. You know, you married the wrong person. You know, you had to end the marriage, but it's not the end of the world. But, you know, you learn from it and you move on and you figure out how you can do better next time. But the idea of marriage is far more exciting than the reality of marriage. You know, many of us, we like the idea of being married, but the reality sometimes is far worse and far more difficult than the idea. So the idea is kind of like a fantasy. But the reality, you know, the idea can be cool, but the reality can be cruel. Far more cruel and less forgiving than the idea. So we like the idea, but many of us have no interest or desire in the responsibility of marriage. So the idea of it and the fantasy of it is exciting, but the responsibility and the accountability that comes along with it, we want no parts of it. Because many people get married who are very selfish and they stay selfish after they get married. Where no marriage is going to survive if you have two selfish people or even one selfish person. It's going to be very difficult. So you can't get married and stay selfish and be self-centered. When you get married, it's about being your life now centering around another person, right? So if I'm a husband, then my life will center around my wife. And if I'm a wife, my life will center around my husband. And so now this person becomes the center of our personal individual universe. And when everything revolves around another person, it can be very, very hard for us to psychologically make that transition and accept that. And that's why so many marriages fail, because we want to keep all of our own stuff and then somehow think we can take 50% of our stuff and mix it with the other person to keep the other half for ourselves to the side. It doesn't work like that. Everything from your emotions, your intellect, your body, I mean, you name it, you have to be all in. But again, that's not the idea. The idea is fantasy, is bliss. But the reality doesn't work like that, folks. You got to work your way to bliss, because bliss doesn't just happen. Bliss is a process over time. You can get there, but it's going to take work, and you got to pay dues, and you got to make sacrifices. So it's not just going to happen. Maybe early on, honeymoon and all this other stuff, that's fine, but that's not real marriage. That's a honeymoon. Okay. But what I want to talk to you about is kind of like 4 places or 4 things or phases in a marriage, right, that I don't think you want to go when you think about all 4 as a whole. Now, you may want to go to 1, but maybe not all 4. And I'm going to explain that here in a second. So again, when you start talking about a marriage, and I'm going to use some analogies, right, and be a little metaphoric here as I'm sharing this with you. But it's like this. So one place you go when you get married is to the amusement park. Now, we all know what amusement parks are like, right? So, you know, here in Florida, you know, we like going to Universal Studios and all the different Disney theme parks and all this other stuff. And we like that, and Adventure Island and all that cool stuff. I think when I lived up in Ohio, everybody liked going to Kings Island and different places. When I was in Massachusetts, everybody was into Six Flags and all these other places. So we all know what happens in amusement parks. So you ride everything, cotton candy, popcorn, ice cream, you know, Slurpees. It's a good time, you know. You got these little animals and, you know, taking photos and, again, getting on rides and having a good time. And it's like an amusement park, and everything is accessible to you at the amusement park. You can do everything. Everything is right there in your face, and it's exciting. It's exhilarating. It's pumped up. Man, you know, you and your husband or your wife, y'all can't keep your hands off each other. Y'all so attracted to each other. You can't stop thinking about each other. You can barely work because you can't get your mind off this person, and so on and so forth. You can't wait to get home and jump into bed and do whatever it is that you like doing. And it's all exciting and exhilarating and pumped up and beautiful, and everything is roses and it's amazing. This person is listening to you and, you know, engaging in conversation with you and holding hands with you and all of these things. And that's what it's like at first, early on. It's like an amusement park. Okay? So we all like the amusement park experience in a marriage. We all do. It's great, man. This is the love of my life. I'll do anything for you. I'm so glad that God brought you into my life. Oh my God, this is amazing. And I get that. And you do whatever it takes to make that person happy. Right? You do everything. You cater to them. You support them. You're there. But then after a while, if you're not careful, you make your way to the museum. And you know what a museum is like, right? And museums are cool. You walk around and you see all these beautiful exhibits. And these little narratives on what that exhibit represents or stands for. It's a beautiful exhibit and wow, it's amazing. See, the thing about a museum though, is that again, it's full of exhibits, paintings and statues and historical artifacts. And you can't touch that stuff though, because it's a museum and you can read about it and you can stand there and gaze all day if you have to. But you can't touch artifacts and most items in a museum, right? I ain't talking about a kid's museum. But a regular museum, you can't jump on those, what do you call it? Those, when they have those animals like dinosaurs and stuff, and they build these sort of replicas. You can't jump on those things. You can read about it and you can look, but you can't touch. Now, isn't that how marriage is after a while? Now, all of a sudden, and it used to be an amusement park, and y'all couldn't get enough of each other. Talking, laughing, holding hands, cuddling up. I can't live without you. Every time I breathe, I take a breath without you, texting each other. Hee hee ha ha. Emoji, emoji, emoji. But now it's a museum. You can't even touch it. You can look, but you can't touch. Not today, not tonight. Nope. I ain't got time, I'm busy. Wife trying to talk to you, your mind somewhere else. You're not even focused on the conversation. You just yap. That's all you hear. See, but before you were all into the conversation and locked in, but now you're not even focused on her. She knows it. And now this your big greasy husband always trying to touch you and all this stuff, and you like, nah, not today. You stink. Oh, get away from me. Whatever, right? See, that's a museum. You can look, but you can't touch. Now you can hang around, be around each other, do stuff together, but it's not the same as an amusement park. Museums, I guess, is cool, but it's not nearly as much fun as the amusement park. So we just look, but we can't touch. We talk, but we don't listen. We sit together and have nothing for each other. And this often happens to empty nesters when the kids grow up and they move out and start going in separate ways. See, now you no longer have much in common, so you don't have anything for each other because the thing that kept you busy is gone now, or if not gone, if they're not gone, they're more independent now. So they don't need you guys as much. They don't need you to drive them around, take them to games and to events and do all this other stuff. And they don't need that. Back and forth to school, they're independent. So now you look at each other and you don't have anything else. And if you look at the statistics, the divorce rate is very, very high once those kids become later teenagers, or you become an empty nester. That's when marriages, people divorce. That's when they fall apart. Because there's nothing left. It's a museum now. What happened to the rides, the cotton candy, the popcorn, the Slurpees? What happened? We can't get enough of each other. We're holding hands and texting and emoji. What happened now? It's a museum, so you're not talking. Okay, now, when you stop talking and expressing how you feel, communicating, right? We know communication is the key. When you stop telling your spouse where you are and how you feel and have an open, honest dialogue, not phony, not fake, and listen, and you're starting to hold things in from each other because you don't want to argue, you don't want to fight, you don't want conflict, Now you get into the danger zone. And then when you do try to talk, it always turns into an argument. So if a man says, oh, baby, it just ain't the same, we're not physically engaged like we used to, now it's a fight. See? And then if she says, well, we will be more physically engaged if you listen to me more, now it's a fight. And see, arguments, in most situations, is built around, because this is why I'm not a big arguing person. And then sometimes my wife and I get into it, but overall, just in general as a person, I'm not argumentative. People who know me will tell you that. And usually the reason why arguments last because somebody's trying to win the argument. And so it's really a wasted exercise. Who cares if you win or lose? The bottom line is you see it this way, I see it that way, we're at an impasse. When you get to that impasse, right, the next step, though, after that, if you don't deal with it, can be very, very dangerous. Because here's what happens when you get there. Now, you hold stuff in. You stop talking. So you withdraw. I'm not talking to you. You're not talking to me. We're at the museum now. We're walking around. And now it's super quiet. I mean, now, listen, it don't move from a museum. It's almost like a library. There's silence, man. Radio silence, right? Total darkness when it comes to communication. Or at least meaningful communication, right? So now here's what happens. Eventually, something's going to go down. Somebody's going to say something or do something to set the other person off, right? Something's going to go down, and this stuff is going to start coming out. Now, you got this big fight now. Now you transition from the museum to the zoo. See, now when you're in the zoo, it's like wild animals. Now there's all that howling and crying and fighting and frustration, and now it's getting out of control. Now it's getting crazy. Cursing each other out, calling each other's name, accusing the other person of cheating. Oh yeah, that happens. The reason you don't want to sleep with me because your mind is on another man. That guy at your job, where you said you were on your way home, but you went somewhere else. You said you were at the store, but you were here. You said you had to work late, but you were doing this and that. See, now it's a zoo. Now the heat is on. It's a battle, man. It's a fight to the finish. It's out of control, man. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Blow up after blow up after blow up after blow up, man. Because it's falling apart. Falling apart. What happened? It's a zoo. Now you got a headache. You're stressed out. You're having chest pains. You're worried about your health. Your blood pressure is going up. You can't focus. You can't concentrate. You don't trust each other. Now you're wondering, what is he doing? What is she doing? What happened? Now it's a zoo. It's crazy up in here. You don't even want to go home anymore. You want to hang out with your girls, with your boys, because you don't want to go home because it's totally mad. You're in bed and you lay there and you won't even look at each other. Sleeping in separate rooms. Now, I'm the first to admit, sometimes in a marriage, y'all probably need to sleep in a separate room. Sometimes it's better to go to your respective corners. Believe me, that's a very healthy practice in a marriage. That can help. Sometimes y'all probably don't need to see each other right now. But what I'm saying, generally speaking, when you went from this museum to a madhouse, and now it's a zoo and it's totally out of control. And then stuff gets physical. Right? And see, that's scary. You don't want to push each other, but it happens. Horrible thing. And then beyond and even if it was not black and blue, meaning physical abuse, it can turn into verbal abuse. Now you're starting to just put each other down and call each other, talk about your weight and your body and you this and that. See, now you're attacking each other. See, now, man, this is getting out of control. So now you done burst out of the zoo, and the next place you end up is the courthouse. Now, you're ready to end that thing. You're ready to shut this down. You're ready to end this marriage. Because irreconcilable differences. You can't stand him. You can't stand her. And the feeling is mutual. You done found somebody else. She done found somebody else. He done found somebody else. Now you're distracted. And you may be in a relationship with a person that may not be necessarily sexual in nature in terms of physical, but you can be in an intellectual, emotional relationship with someone outside of your marriage because you're not getting it from your spouse. And here's what we do. See, we put ourselves in these situations and we wonder why things happen the way that they do. But what we should have did, instead of going through the pain and suffering of all of these phases, now we're in the courthouse, and God forbid you got kids involved. Now that makes it more difficult. Now it's hard. Or you've been with someone 20 plus years, you give them your whole life. Now all of a sudden, you're in your mid-40s and you find yourself by yourself. After all of those years of dedicating to that person. Because you didn't put the work in and you didn't recognize way back at the amusement park. Way back when you were having fun on the rides. Jumping on top of each other. Eating cotton candy, popcorn, and giant Slurpees. And having a good time and laughing and joking and emoji. And couldn't get enough of each other. That what you didn't recognize during that time, that too shall pass. So what you need to do is put the work in to sustain that. Because if you don't put the work in to anything, it'll go away. No matter what you do in life, if you don't put the effort into your current situation and what you're currently doing, that too will go away if you don't put the work in. You can't take a second for granted in this life. You can't have a wasted minute on this earth. And inside of a marriage, you cannot waste a moment of it. And you do not take that person for granted at any time. If you really love that person and you're dedicated to that person and you want him and you want her for the rest of your life, then you don't take that person for granted and you recognize, man, it can be over like that. And most marriages are over long before they are. That most people who divorce, they divorced long before they divorced. Because they checked out mentally, intellectually, they checked out a long time ago. And it's like they're no longer a volunteer, they're a prisoner in a relationship. And when you move from a volunteer to a prisoner, that's not pleasant, that's no good. And the bottom line is, if you don't put the work in, it's not going to happen for you. And you guys have heard me say this on several occasions. You attract who you are, not who you want. And you have to learn how to be what you want to happen to you. In other words, if you want a person that's going to love you unconditionally and commit themselves to you through the good times and the bad times, through the ebbs and the flows, then you got to be that to that person first. And if that's who you are, then that's what you'll get in return in most instances. Now, the reality is there's some people who are just obstinate. They are who they are, and they have no desire to commit to you, or they're just selfish, and they don't want to give up themselves. They'll get what they have coming to them. That's not your battle. See, and I'm a firm believer in this, that you don't marry a devil and try to convert him to an angel. Male or female. You don't sit there engaging with devils trying to convert them. That is not my job. My job is not to convert you from a devil to an angel. Some people are who they are. That's God's work. That ain't mine. So don't jump into a marriage trying to rescue somebody. You can't save a person from drowning and walk with them at the same time. But too many people I know a lot of women who do this as well. They get involved with these horrible men who are no good as boyfriends, and they think if they marry them, somehow they're going to rescue them and make them different. Like they're going to have an epiphany and become a new person at the altar. It doesn't work like that, folks. I've counseled way too many couples who are engaged, way too many people who are dating, way too many married couples. And I'm telling you right now, the reality is, you or me, listen, we can't be in the business of trying to convert a devil or trying to save a drowning person and think they're going to walk with us at the same time. Do people change? Absolutely. Can they change? Listen, I'm living proof. But the reality is, when you start talking about marriage, you're talking about a lifelong commitment, and you're talking about becoming one flesh with this person. And you can't link up with somebody at that level and think you're going to rescue them like some kind of rescue mission. It doesn't work like that. What you have to learn how to do, right, is take your time when it comes to marriage, number one, and make sure to the best of your ability that's the right person. That they're tested and proven, and you're ready to take that step, because that's a serious decision. So you can't get married driven by the idea of it. You got to get married with the intent of making a life with this person and ready for everything that comes your way as a result of that decision. And it's more than a honeymoon. So when you're at the amusement park and you're having a good time and it's all fun, listen, you need to keep the other eye on what you need to do to make sure you sustain, maintain, and protect what you've established. Because once that marriage, the amusement park phase dries up and it goes into the museum, right? And you can look, but you can't touch. You can talk, but you're not listening. Right? It's not the same. It's kind of cold. And now in your marriage, so listen, I've seen it. So like husband and wife, like they'll sleep together, but it's not that they were excited about making love. It was they did it out of obligation, so it was obligatory. So now that's uncomfortable, but you're just doing it because you have to. That's museum activity. That's not amusing, right? Because listen, if you look at the word amusement, museum is right in the middle of it. If you look at the word, spell out amusement, and you'll see museum right in the middle of the word amusement. Very similar. So when you amusing the amusement park and having a good time, understand right in the middle of it is a museum. And if you're not careful, your amusement park is going to dry up and it's going to be a museum. And when it's a museum, you're on your way down at that point. Because now you get cold and quiet. And you stop talking. You stop having walks in the park, walks through the mall, long drives in the car. Sometimes, listen, even though you can afford, it may be a little bit more convenient for you to fly somewhere, it might be good to take a road trip, get in the car, and that'll force y'all to talk when you drive. And have conversation and engage and get to know each other over and over and over. I am not saying that Vanessa and I have this perfect marriage, man. All right, but it's something that we can't take for granted, and you got to work on every day. I don't care if you're married 20, 30 years, you can lose that person. And when you're in that museum, that should be your wake-up call, because if you don't listen, you're going to find yourself in a zoo, and it's going to be chaos. And you're not going to get along. You're going to argue all the time, and then you're going to start cheating on each other and then blaming your spouse. This is the reason I cheated, because you didn't do A, B, C, or D with me. You didn't listen to me, he does. You never tell me I'm pretty, he does. And guys is always physical with us, right? In most cases. Well, you didn't let me touch you, but she does. You don't appreciate me, but she does. That's chaos. That's zoo. You don't trust each other, man. You're always looking over your shoulder. Where you at? How come you took so long to call me? I'm on this Find Friends app. Why is your car over in Tampa? You should be in Lakeland, or you should. See, that's what happens. When it's a museum, the next step, the natural progression is the zoo. And once you get in the zoo, man, you headed to the courthouse. That's all that's left. So folks, messed up marriages are a reality. But also, liberated marriages are a reality. You can save your marriage. You can fix it, man. And when it's the end for certain folks, it's the end. But that doesn't mean it's the end. Doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity to fall in love and marry someone else. If you've been divorced, don't give up. Don't let somebody quote a scripture or somebody tell you because you got a divorce, you're a sinner. Man, don't believe that crap. Man, shake that stuff off and move on. You got a chance. You can make it. Don't give up on love. It's out there for you. Somebody love you. Somebody think you hot. Somebody think you incredible. Somebody think you're amazing. Just maintain and sustain. You stay in your lane. You know what I mean? And before you know it, you'll be doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like your opportunities coming. Just hang in there. Trust God. Keep trying to get better. Be what you want. In other words, again, you only track who you are, not who you want. So whatever you want in a person, you be that person first. And that person will be drawn to you. So anyway, guys, as we close out, we get to that 30-minute mark for the Church Express. I want to encourage everybody. I can't live stream on YouTube live any longer until I reach 1,000 subscribers. So we're well below 1,000. So help me get to 1,000 so we can return to live streaming on YouTube. That being said, I might be able to upload some videos, but it's Kirk Smith Unlimited and Associates on YouTube Live. So get to the page and subscribe. There's lots of videos there, by the way. And help us get our subscribership up so we can go back to YouTube Live. You know, but and if you're not following me on Facebook, just go to Kirk Smith Unlimited and Associates as well. But at any rate, guys, you guys have a great week, man. It was really encouraging to share this with you today, and I hope that this will bless you in some kind of way and get you motivated, man. Let's fix these messed up marriages and prevent our marriages from becoming messed up in the first place. So have a great week. 1.